First contact. The vast emptiness of space stretched endlessly beyond the viewports of the UES Artemis, Earth's most advanced exploratory vessel. Commander Elena Reyes stood on the bridge, her dark eyes reflecting the distant stars as she monitored their approach to the Kuiper Belt object designated KBO 7249. After 3 years in deep space, the crew of 47 had mapped dozens of previously unknown celestial bodies, but this particular asteroid had been emitting unusual radiation patterns that defied conventional explanation. Approaching final orbit insertion, Commander, reported Navigation Officer Kazuki Tanaka, his fingers dancing across the holographic controls. ETA 3 minutes. Elena nodded, tucking a strand of her short black hair behind her ear. Science team, status. Dr. Marcus Chen looked up from his station, excitement evident in his voice. Readings are off the charts, Commander. The radiation signature is unlike anything in our database. It's structured, almost like it contains information. A signal. Elena's interest peaked immediately. That's my assessment, Marcus confirmed. And it's not natural. The implications hung heavy in the recycled air of the bridge. Humanity had spent centuries searching for signs of extraterrestrial intelligence, and now, on what was essentially a routine survey mission, they might have stumbled upon the greatest discovery in human history. Bring us into stable orbit, Elena ordered, and assembled the senior staff in the conference room. We need to discuss our next steps carefully. 20 minutes later, the command crew of the Artemis sat around the oval table, reviewing the preliminary data from their scans of KBO 7249. The signal originates from beneath the surface, explained Dr. Chen, projecting a three-dimensional model of the asteroid, approximately 200 meters down. The composition of the asteroid is primarily ice and silicates, but there's something else, a structure of some kind. Lieutenant Commander Jackson, head of security, leaned forward. Are we talking about a natural formation or something constructed? Definitely constructed, Chen replied without hesitation. The geometric precision is unmistakable. This is artificial. Elena considered their options. Protocol dictated that they should report back to Earth Command before proceeding, but they were currently 17 light hours from home. A response would take more than a day. We'll send the data back to Earth, she decided, but I'm not waiting for a response. This is what we're out here for. Dr. Chen, prepare a landing team. I want to know what's down there. 6 hours later, Elena led a team of 8 specialists in 2 shuttles toward the surface of KBO 7249. The asteroid rotated slowly beneath them, its cratered surface reflecting the distant sunlight in dull, icy glints. Landing site identified, reported Tanaka from the pilot's seat, setting down 100 meters from the signal source. The shuttles touched down on the frozen surface with gentle puffs of ejected dust. Elena was the first to step outside, her magnetized boots keeping her anchored to the asteroid's minimal gravity. The empty blackness of space surrounded them, punctuated only by the brilliant specks of distant stars and the faint glow of the sun, now just a bright point among many. Environmental readings are nominal, reported Dr. Isabel Okafor, the team's exobiologist. Temperature at -200 Celsius, no atmosphere. Standard operating procedures. The team moved carefully across the icy surface, following the increasingly strong signal detected by their equipment. After 40 minutes of slow progress, they reached what appeared to be an ordinary crater, except for the perfect hexagonal outline visible beneath a thin layer of space dust. This is it, Chen confirmed, brushing away some of the dust with a gloved hand. Ground-penetrating radar shows a chamber below. And there's an entryway. As if responding to their presence, the hexagonal outline suddenly illuminated with a soft blue glow. Before anyone could react, the surface beneath them disappeared, and they found themselves descending on a platform of energy into the heart of the asteroid. Stay calm, Elena ordered, though her own heart raced. Weapons ready, but do not fire unless I give the command. The platform came to rest in a vast chamber that defied the external dimensions of the asteroid. The walls pulsed with the same blue light that had enveloped their descent platform, and strange symbols crawled across surfaces that seemed to be made of some metallic substance, unlike any alloy known to Earth science. "This chamber must be at least 500 meters across," whispered Lieutenant Ramirez, the team's engineer. "That's impossible given the asteroid's size." "Unless space itself is being manipulated," Chen suggested, his scientific curiosity overriding his apprehension. In the center of the chamber stood a structure that resembled a control console, though without any recognizable interfaces. As Elena approached it cautiously, the console activated, projecting a three-dimensional star map into the air above it. "That's our solar system," Chen said, pointing to a familiar configuration of planets. "And that." He indicated a pulsing red dot moving slowly across the projection. "Appears to be us. The Artemis." Before they could investigate further, the entire chamber shuddered. The blue light intensified, and a new projection appeared. A massive fleet of ships, hundreds of them, arranged in a formation that could only be described as militaristic. "I think this is a monitoring station," Elena realized, cold dread settling in her stomach. "And we just triggered something." The projection zoomed out, showing the fleet's trajectory directly toward their solar system. "Estimated time of arrival: 6 months. We need to get back to the ship," Elena ordered, her voice tight with urgency. Now, as they rushed back to the energy platform, the chamber's lights shifted from blue to a pulsing red. The symbols on the walls began moving more rapidly, and a deep, resonant tone filled the air, like an alarm. They had just reached the surface and were sprinting toward their shuttles when the first alien ship appeared. It materialized from what seemed to be a tear in space itself, a massive vessel shaped like an elongated diamond, its surface a mosaic of what looked like overlapping scales that rippled with iridescent patterns. "Get to the shuttles," Elena shouted as a beam of intense purple energy lanced out from the alien vessel, cutting through the icy surface of the asteroid mere meters from their position. The team scrambled aboard their shuttles, launching with emergency thrust that strained the vessel's engines. The alien ship pursued, firing intermittently with devastating accuracy. "Evasive maneuvers," Elena commanded as Tanaka pushed their shuttle to its limits. The second shuttle, piloted by Lieutenant Commander Jackson, took a glancing hit that sent it spinning. "Shuttle 2, report," Elena called over the comm. "Port thrusters damage," Jackson's strained voice replied. "We've got wounded. Dr. Okafor is dead. Can still make it to the Artemis if you cover us." Elena made the call immediately. Lieutenant Ramirez prepped the emergency countermeasures. Ramirez nodded grimly, activating a package of experimental defensive devices that had been included in their mission supplies for extreme situations. As the alien vessel closed in for another attack, Ramirez launched 3 small projectiles toward it. The projectiles detonated in a cascade of electromagnetic pulses combined with a burst of quantum-entangled particles designed to disrupt energy fields. To everyone's surprise, the alien vessel's weapons system faltered, its purple energy beam dissipating before it could fire again. "It worked," Ramirez exclaimed. "Their technology must be vulnerable to quantum disruption." The discovery came at a cost, however. The second shuttle had sustained critical damage, and by the time they docked with the Artemis, 3 more crew members had died from their injuries. "All hands, prepare for emergency jump," Elena ordered as soon as they were aboard. "Set course for Earth, maximum speed." As the Artemis engaged its experimental Alcubierre drive, Elena took one last look at the alien vessel through the view screen. It had already been joined by 2 others, and they were scanning the asteroid with intense energy beams. "They're coming," she said quietly to her XO. "And we just became the only warning Earth will get." The journey back to Earth took 27 days at maximum sustainable speed, during which time the crew of the Artemis analyzed every scrap of data they had gathered about the alien vessel and the monitoring station. They learned precious little, But what they did discover was troubling. The aliens, whom they designated as the Vorax, based on symbol patterns observed in the monitoring station, possessed technology far beyond humanity's current capabilities. When they finally reached Earth orbit, Elena was immediately summoned to an emergency meeting of the United Earth Defense Council. She stood before representatives from every major nation on the planet, her uniform still bearing the dust of KBO 7249, and delivered the grim news. We have approximately 5 months before the Vorax fleet reaches our solar system, she concluded after presenting their findings. Based on what we observed, their intentions are hostile, and their technology outclasses ours by at least a century. General Zhao, the Chinese representative, leaned forward. Are there any weaknesses we can exploit? Anything at all? Elena nodded, activating a holographic display of their encounter. Yes, Lieutenant Ramirez's countermeasures had an unexpected effect on their weapons systems. We believe their technology is vulnerable to certain quantum disruption effects. It's not much, but it's something. Then we build on that, said Dr. Aisha Hassan, head of the Global Science Directorate. Commander Reyes, I'm placing you in charge of a special task force. You have full access to Earth's scientific resources. Find a way to exploit this weakness. As the meeting concluded, Elena stood at the window overlooking the sprawling United Earth Defense Headquarters in Geneva. The beautiful blue planet spread out below, home to 8 billion souls who had no idea that an existential threat was heading their way. We'll be ready, she promised the planet silently. Whatever it takes. The COUNTR offensive. 5 months passed in a blur of frantic preparation. The nations of Earth set aside their differences in the face of extinction, pooling resources and knowledge in ways unprecedented in human history. Under Elena's guidance, the Quantum Disruption Task Force made remarkable progress, developing weapons that could potentially exploit the Vorax vulnerability they had discovered. The QD missiles are in final production, reported Dr. Rajan Singh, the brilliant physicist who had refined Ramirez's original countermeasures into deployable weapons. Every ship in the defense fleet will be equipped within the week. Elena nodded, studying the deployment map that showed Earth's combined space forces, a hastily assembled array of military vessels, retrofitted civilian ships, and 3 new battle cruisers rushed through production. It wasn't much against what they expected from the Vorax, but it was humanity's best chance. And the planetary shield? She asked, turning to Dr. Hassan. The emitter network is at 93% completion, Aisha replied. It won't stop their ships, but it should protect against their energy weapons, at least for a while. The command center hummed with activity as personnel from dozens of nations worked side by side, preparing for what might be humanity's final battle. Elena had been promoted to admiral, though she took little pleasure in the advancement, knowing it came primarily so she could command the unified defense fleet. Admiral, called Lieutenant Kim from the long-range sensor station, his voice cutting through the background noise. We have contacts. Multiple signatures just appeared at the edge of the Kuiper belt. The room fell silent as all eyes turned to the main display. Hundreds of Vorax vessels had emerged from what appeared to be artificial wormholes, their distinctive diamond-shaped profiles arranged in the same formation Elena had seen projected in the monitoring station. They're here, she said simply. Battle stations. Within hours, the first wave of the Vorax fleet had reached Mars orbit. They made no attempts at communication, no demands for surrender. Their opening move was to obliterate the small research outpost on Phobos with a single energy blast that reduced the moon to rubble. The message was clear. Annihilation was their only purpose. All ships, assume defensive formation Delta, Elena ordered from the bridge of the UES Defiant, Earth's newest and most powerful warship. Remember your training. The QD missiles are our primary offensive weapon. Make every shot count. The human fleet engaged the Vorax advance forces near the orbit of Luna, Earth's moon. The battle began disastrously, with a dozen human ships destroyed in the first exchange. The Vorax energy weapons sliced through conventional armor as if it were paper, and their shields easily deflected traditional missiles and railgun projectiles. But then the first KD missiles found their targets. Direct hit on Vorax vessel Alpha 7, reported Tactical Officer Rivera. Their shields are fluctuating. And down. Secondary weapons having effect. A cheer went up across the fleet as the first Vorax ship was crippled by concentrated fire following the KD missile strike. The victory was short-lived, however, as the main Vorax fleet adjusted their approach, spreading out to make targeting more difficult. "They're adapting quickly," Elena observed grimly. "We need to implement Phase 2. Signal the lunar installations." Hidden beneath the surface of the moon, humanity had constructed massive quantum disruption emitters, scaled-up versions of the missiles, designed to create an expanding field of the effect rather than localized impacts. As the emitters activated, a wave of invisible energy rolled outward, causing Vorax shields to flicker and weapons to misfire across a wide area. For a brief moment, the tide of battle seemed to turn. The human fleet pressed the advantage, destroying or disabling 17 Vorax vessels in rapid succession. But then, once again, the aliens adapted. "They're modulating their shield frequencies," reported Dr. Singh from the science station. "The KD effect is diminishing with each pulse." Elena had anticipated this. Implement frequency rotation protocol and launch the infiltration team. While the battle raged in space, a small, specialized vessel detached from the underside of the Defiant, its experimental stealth systems rendering it virtually invisible to both human and Vorax sensors. Aboard were Lieutenant Ramirez and a team of elite operators, along with Dr. Chen, whose understanding of the Vorax technology from the monitoring station made him invaluable for their mission. Their target, the Vorax command ship, a vessel 3 times larger than any other in the alien fleet. Approaching target, Ramirez reported via encrypted channel. "Their adaptive shields are fluctuating exactly as predicted. We'll have our opening in 30 seconds. Elena watched on a specialized display as the infiltration vessel slipped through a momentary gap in the Vorax flagship's defenses, attaching to its hull like a remora on a shark. "We're in," came Chen's voice minutes later. "The interior is extraordinary. Organic technology, just as we suspected. The ship is alive." This confirmed what they had theorized from their limited observations. The Vorax had merged biological and technological components in ways humans had only begun to imagine. It was both their greatest strength and, potentially, their greatest vulnerability. "Proceed with the package deployment," Elena ordered. Outside, the battle continued to go poorly for the human fleet. Despite their initial successes, they were being systematically overwhelmed by superior Vorax numbers and technology. The planetary shield was holding, but sensors indicated it would fail within hours under the concentrated assault. Everything depended on Ramirez and Chen now. "Package is in place," Ramirez reported, his voice tight with tension. "Activating. Now." The package was humanity's desperate gambit, a specially engineered biological agent designed to interface with and disrupt the organic components of Vorax technology. It was part virus, part nanite swarm, developed in secret by Earth's best minds based on the limited samples recovered from the damaged Vorax vessel they had encountered 5 months earlier. For long minutes, nothing seemed to happen. The Vorax continued their relentless assault, pushing ever closer to Earth. 3 more human ships were destroyed, and the Defiant itself took heavy damage to its port side. Then suddenly, the largest Vorax vessel, the command ship, shuddered visibly. Its weapons fell silent, and the rhythmic pulsing of its hull slowed, like a heartbeat growing irregular. "It's working," breathed Dr. Singh, watching the readings from his station. "The bioagent is spreading through their organic systems." The effect cascaded outward as the Vorax ships, apparently connected through some kind of shared consciousness, began experiencing the same symptoms. One by one, their weapons stopped firing. Their precise formation dissolved into chaos. "All vessels, push forward," Elena commanded. "Target any ship still showing active weapon signatures." The human fleet rallied, pressing the unexpected advantage with everything they had left. QD missiles struck with renewed effectiveness against the compromised Vorax shields, and conventional weapons finished what they started. On the command ship, Ramirez and his team fought a desperate battle against Vorax defenders. Tall, multi-limbed beings with exoskeletons that merged seamlessly with mechanical components. Despite taking heavy casualties, the team managed to reach what appeared to be the vessel's central control node. "We're at the target," Ramirez reported, breathing heavily. "Dr. Chen is interfacing with their systems now." Chen, protected by the remaining security team, had connected his specialized equipment to the pulsing organic material that seemed to be the ship's brain. "Remarkable," he murmured. "Their entire consciousness is stored here. I can access their knowledge base. Focus on finding a way to shut them down permanently," Elena reminded him. "I'm trying, but wait. This is interesting." Chen's voice changed, becoming more urgent. "Admiral, these aren't invasion forces. They're automated defense systems. The Vorax themselves are long gone, extinct for millennia. These ships are programmed to eliminate any species that activates one of their monitoring stations." "Are you saying we're fighting robots?" Elena asked incredulously. "Not exactly. More like biological weapons left behind by a dead civilization, programmed to prevent any other species from reaching the technological level the Vorax achieved before they destroy themselves." This revelation changed everything. If there was no actual Vorax civilization behind these ships, then perhaps there was a central command program that could be terminated. "Can you shut them down?" Elena asked. "I think so," Chen replied. "Their primary directive is coded into this neural matrix, if I can overwrite it." For tense minutes, Chen worked feverishly while Ramirez and his remaining team members held off waves of what they now knew were biomechanical drones. On the Defiant, Elena watched as more Vorax ships began to drift, their weapons systems inactive. "It's done," Chen finally reported. "I've replaced their primary directive. Instead of eliminating technological civilizations, they're now programmed to leave us alone, essentially." Across the battlefield, the remaining Vorax vessels began to withdraw, forming up into a new formation before opening the same wormhole-like tiers in space they had arrived through. Within an hour, they had vanished completely, leaving behind only the wreckage of their destroyed ships and the devastation they had wrought. The human fleet, battered but triumphant, regrouped around Earth. Of the original 300 vessels, only 117 remained operational. The cost had been staggering. Nearly 30,000 lives lost in the space battle alone, with more casualties from the limited planetary bombardment that had occurred before the shield was activated. But humanity had survived. In the aftermath, as the infiltration team was recovered and the wounded tended to, Elena stood once again at the viewport of her damaged flagship, looking down at the blue planet that had so nearly been lost. "We should destroy everything we recovered from them," General Joe suggested, standing beside her. "The technology is too dangerous." Elena shook her head slowly. "No, we study it, understand it, and learn from it. The Vorax destroyed themselves by creating weapons they couldn't control. We need to be smarter than they were. And if those ships return, ask Dr. Hassan, who had joined them, or if there are other threats out there." Elena turned to face them, her expression resolute. "Then we'll be ready. Humanity just proved we can face extinction and emerge stronger. The universe should take note. We are not easy prey." As rehabilitation efforts began on Earth, and plans were made to expand humanity's presence in the solar system, this time with better defenses, Elena found herself promoted again to head the newly formed Interstellar Defense Initiative. Their mission: to explore the galaxy, not just with curiosity, but with caution, to seek out new civilizations, but also to protect humanity from threats yet unknown. The shadow of the Vorax had passed, but its lesson remained. The void between stars held both wonders and dangers. Humanity would face both with the same ingenuity, courage, and determination that had saved them from their first extraterrestrial threat. And they would not be caught unprepared again.